Hello, and welcome to our Thursday night live no fee Tai Chi. Of course, these are all available again as soon as this is done. I upload it right away, and you can watch them anytime. So far, these classes have been fairly freeform. I haven't had much more than a theme when we start out the class, and I just kind of go from there and see where we get to by the end of it. So far, it's worked out pretty well, I think. There's at least, a through line through everything. And today we're going to talk a little bit about stances, postures, things you might want to do with them, things you might want to train with them, possibly a little bit of footwork to go along with it, that sort of thing. And realizing it's going to be easier if I just move this out of the way. All right. So we have a little X on the floor in front of us here. And we're just going to use that to orient ourselves a little bit. So normally the first stance that you're probably going to learn in any Chinese martial arts is going to be some variant of Mabu, or horse stance or horse riding stance. And generally the biggest characteristic of Mabu is going to be feet in a line. They don't necessarily have to be parallel, although a lot of them are. And you can also find Mabu variations where your toes are turned out, but they would still also be on a line. The biggest defining feature of Mabu is that you are going to be evenly weighted. So half of your weight is going to be on one leg and half of your body weight is going to be on the other leg. That's just pretty standard for Mabus, whether they are toes out or toes parallel. The next stance that you're probably going to learn is something called bow and arrow stance. And there's a couple of different variations of those, but essentially the biggest commonalities between them are going to be that our rear foot is going to be on about a 45-degree angle, and our front foot is going to be about straight ahead. And from here, we are going to bring most of our weight forward. So we should be able to see on the dividing line here that approximately 2/3 or so of my weight is forward and about 1/3 of my mass is behind this line. So I'm not completely stretched out forward here. I just want to get most of my weight forward, and probably you're going to find that my knee is in line pretty close to right above my toe. I don't really want to go much further forward than that, although it's possible. And you certainly don't want to be doing it, where most of your weight is actually on the rear. So that's, our basic bow and arrow stance. Those are the two most common ones you're going to come across first. And the two variations on the bow and arrow stance that we're going to come across has to do with width between our feet. So if I do this facing the camera, this is the easiest way to show it. My rear foot's on a 45. My front foot is going to step straight in front so that there is that same almost horse stance width between my legs. And that's going to give me a lot of stability, not only front and back, but also side to side. So I get a lot of hip rotational movement out of this. The other variation on bow and arrow that we're going to come across is basically no width. This is going to be very close to on line. So my rear heel is on this line. My front toes are on that same line. So I have a very narrow stance, basically no width. This gives me a lot of front back stability, but I don't get quite as much movement to to the side. I get a lot to one side, but I get very little to the other side. I actually have to twist through my waist. I don't get nearly the same sort of rotational characteristic out of a narrow stance as I do out of a wider stance. And those are the main variations you're going to see on those. Is typically if you're talking about like an empty hand competitive, especially if we're talking push hands or play hands, toy show type practice, we are very much going to be having a wider stance when we're in our bow and arrow. And if we're dealing with weapons, we are going to have a narrower stance for our bow and arrow, so we want to provide much less of a target. This is also probably a descendant of battlefield tactics. So you would typically have, buddies on either side of you. So you didn't require the same sort of rotational characteristics for defense, and you could worry a lot more about just what was in front of you. The next most common stance that you're probably going to come across is shiabu, or a cross stance. And a cross stance basically is going to be any time that one foot crosses in front of another or crosses behind another. And that is going to look something like, if my feet were normally here, well, on one side, go to the other side. Cross stance. And this is very much a transition stance. So I am typically moving through this stance to get to something else. I.e., I may be over here in a mabu and I need to cross in front here and then step into a bow and arrow type stance. Or I'm come out of my bow and arrow stance, back cross step to come over here to face my next opponent here. So I typically am moving through this stance. And this one, depending on what you're going for, you can have it front weighted or rear weighted. Like I say, mostly this is a transition stance. And it is going to also, you're going to see it show up as more of a challenge or for strength training and conditioning, so where we're actually sinking all the way down into this stance. So I have my rear leg's knee on the inside of my foreleg's knee and standing up and out through it. So I can come back, sink down, and move. So that stance shows up here and there. It is less used in Tai Chi. You're typically going to find it in a move maybe like a cloud hands variant. So you could have your cloud hands where you're just stepping side to side. And you can have cloud hands variants where you are cross-stepping behind. Sort of deal. And the last one that is probably super common to most Tai Chi styles is you are going to have something in a pubu or a drop stance. And we're typically going to find that one in something like a snake creeps down, in Yang style anyways, where we are in a long, narrow bow and arrow stance. And we open up, sink down, and come through. So that's one of those super pretty moves that everyone really, it's iconic, especially for Yang style Tai Chi, but Tai Chi in general, having that, nice low drop stance there. Working on getting it is great as a challenge. It's not something you are probably going to be rapidly getting in and out of unless you are going for some seriously high levels of Tai Chi, which is understandably not everyone's goal. So those are the most common ones that you are going to find. And the last one, which might show up here and there depending on your style, is a variant of cross stance, which is a T stance. And T meaning your rear foot would be on a line and your front foot would be basically 90 degrees to that. So you would be getting a, if you were to like just draw your feet out, it would be kind of like a uppercase T. And this can be done high or low. Depending on your style, you might come across that one. Now, those are all the two-legged stances, and then there are variants on the single-legged stances, but they are generally going to come down to rear foot on a 45-degree angle, and your front foot with no weight on it is either going to be on its toe or on its heel or up in the air, either with your toe up or your toe down. However it goes, if you're on a single leg, your rear leg is always 100% weighted and you have it off on about a 45-degree angle. So why am I going over all this stance stuff? So the main theme for tonight is doing Tai Chi in a small space. And most of us do not have the space to do a full-on Tai Chi form. There is a saying in China that you should be able to do your Kung Fu in the space that it would take an ox to lie down in. I don't have an ox for reference. I probably haven't ever even gotten close enough to an ox to have a good reference for that. If it's roughly cow-sized, I can sort of picture that. But for most of us, I mean, especially modern urban dwelling in condos, small spaces, even if you had a large living room, there's probably a coffee table in the middle of it, yada, yada, yada. We're fighting for space on how to be able to perform our forms that we might go to class and learn or go to a park and have a nice open space to do. How do we translate that into being able to do our Kung Fu at home in a small space, you know, when the weather's lousy outside and you want to move? So the number one thing that I can pass on to you that my first teacher passed on to me is saying in Tai Chi that every step is a kick and every kick is a step. Now, I know that doesn't really seem like it applies to this particular situation because we're not talking about kicking things, but what we're saying is there is a versatility to the footwork that we do in the forms, in that it is not nearly as rigid as it seems. There is more stuff going on than just what the form is showing initially. And we don't have to actually be kicking with every step that we take in a form. I can start off my Yang style form here, right? Sorry, I should go before that. Feet together, right? Starting out here, well, here's a step, right? Well, how is that a kick? Simple. Not a super flashy kick. It's a nice low kick, hopefully where they don't suspect it, coming in at their knee, right? And I'm just some old guy in a park, right? Boom. All right, so you can step out and kick that way. Your next movement, right? Came up here, hold the ball. Well, there, you could call that a step. Well, that can also be a kick. Hold the ball. Now I need to step out there. That can also be a kick. Turn here. Right. Kick. Okay. So I can modify this any way that I need to when I'm taking these steps to kick. And I can kick in lots of different directions. I can kind of go along with sort of maybe what my form was going for. So like if I step out here, right? Well, I can bring that up and kick outwards. This in itself can be a sweep, which is also a kick, or a variant of a kick, however you want to think of it, right? So we have lots of opportunities with which to just modify our stepping. We can turn them all into kicks. Well, we can also do the same thing with anything that is technically a weight shift. We do a lot of weight shift stuff in Tai Chi. In Yang style Tai Chi, love harping on about grass sparrow's tail and how great it is and all the things we can do with it, right? We have our hold the ball. My weight is mostly on my back leg. Double ward off. My weight is mostly on my front leg. Roll back to the back leg, press down, and push. Every single one of those weight shifts is also a step. So this is an extension of the principle that every kick is a step, every step is a kick. Every weight shift is a step, and every step is a weight shift. Now, if we know that, then we can start making some rather interesting choices. Okay? So if I have to do a sequence, maybe say 3 brush knees in a row, a left brush knee, a right brush knee, and a left brush knee. Very common sort of thing. I'll go right to the edge of my screen here that I can see anyways. There might be some more off there, I don't know. But I step out, a left brush knee, a right brush knee, and a left brush knee. That's traveled a pretty fair distance. But there's no real reason that I actually have to step for every single one of those, at least step 1 foot in front of the other. All of my weight shifts in there can be steps in and of themselves. So here, I brush knee, and rather than, say, for instance, stepping forward for my next one, like stepping through, you can just step up to parallel, shifting the weight, stepping back, and there's my next brush knee. Maybe I continue going back to parallel and forward. Brush knee, brush knee, brush knee. Taking up basically no space. I haven't traveled any distance. And I can modify this however I like. So the first one I step forward, but perhaps I instead step backwards and then forwards. And then the second one I step backwards rather than forwards. So maybe this one I step forwards and backwards. Right? There's no rule for when you are doing this. This is make it fit your space. And whatever your space is, just modify it, change it, right? And you don't have to take the same step or the same stance for any of these things. If you do not have enough room to be able to do a full-on snake creeps down, there is no reason you have to actually get into a drop stance to do it. You can do it from your bow and arrow stance. Right? There's your snake creeps down. If you have to do cloud hands, going across a distance, right? Stepping out cloud. This one here, in and of itself, right here, provides the answer. So I'm 100% weight there, right? I step out to do 100% weight here. Well, I can step out that far. I can step in. I don't have to step any distance whatsoever, right? I can just hang out here. Sinking in, stepping out. Yeah. Maybe I change directions in it. Going one way, going another way. Whatever fits my space. Like if I got to take a weird step to get around a coffee table, great. Do a weird step to get around a coffee table. Always be willing to modify these things. The only time that it ever really matters, like getting the exact right step, is when you're doing a form with a bunch of people and you don't want to bump into anyone. That's really the only time that it is super advantageous to always, be doing the correct step and the same step as the person next to you, right? But you can take any stance in any form. You can move your feet anytime you're doing a weight shift. Yeah, just this in and of itself, right? Doing a brush knee and bringing 2/3 of my weight forward. I have my weight forward. Well, I can do 100% of my weight forward, and then I can put this foot anywhere it needs to go. All right. I can change directions and then come back this way. There's my same 3 brush knees. Right. This is kind of my way of saying, don't worry about the forms. Don't be a stickler about them. And if you've got a very small space, just modify it to make it work. And it is extremely excellent training to do that for kind of the next concept I want to get into when to really level up your Tai Chi training. It is super awesome to be able to do a great set of Tai Chi in what is largely a nice, flat, even, nothing sticking out sort of place. Your typical studios, dojos, parking lots, parkade, whatever, that sort of thing. It's great to be able to do that. It is super awesome to be able to do it in any kind of terrain. Now, probably the easiest place to start out is going to be to go out and touch grass. Kick off your shoes, kick off your socks, get your toes right in there. Find a nice, flat, grassy area if you possibly can. And very quickly, you're going to find out it's nowhere near as flat as you thought it was. There is so many little undulations, I guess you could call them, molehills, outcroppings, divots, rada, that is going to make your stance and movement work and rooting and all that good Tai Chi stuff work just over time. You are very quickly going to find out where your balance deficiencies are. You are very quickly going to be finding out where your center of balance is and how you are moving it. You are going to have to modify your steps and your stances in order to make it work, right? If you go out for a nice perfect bow and arrow and there's a stick in the way, right? You got some choices. You can get that foot nice and low and clear the stick out of the way, right? You can go over top of the stick stepping down, maybe with your heel on one side of the stick, your toes on the other side of the stick, right? Feeling how that balances. You can step right down and like crush the stick. Feel how that goes. You can step over the stick even further and make a bigger stance. Onwards and onwards and onwards. There's lots of different choices you make, and you really want to try and keep it as spontaneous as possible, right? You want to keep your mind constantly juggling and, oh, that's different. Oh, how do I do this? Oh, I got to do this. And it's going to force you to get into a mode where you are really focused on the most important aspects of your balance and stability basically at all times. It is always going to be modifying itself. It is always going to be active in your mind. You are not going to be able to shut it off like you can in a nice, flat, well-kept area. Like, I don't really have to think too hard about my foot going out and getting a nice bow and arrow stance, like so, when I'm on this. But you put that on any kind of a terrain, and you got to be thinking, because just that in and of itself, what if your foot hits something? What if it catches something, right? Well, that swing doesn't happen quite the same anymore. Now, my weight transfer is a little different coming forward. That makes my rear foot feel a little different. Maybe I need to adjust my rear foot to get my balance, kind of into the place that I want to be. I'm always constantly shifting and adjusting these things. And that is awesome training for actually using Tai Chi. So this is kind of the progression that I want you to think about doing. One, any of the footwork you learn in a Tai Chi class, always keep in mind that you can change it. You can make it fit the situation. You can put the foot down essentially anywhere you need to. Anytime you lift your foot up to take a step, in the way that it can be a kick, it can also get put down in a different place, right? And maybe you've got to adjust your rear foot to make up for that difference, but start getting used to being a little more fluid with that, being a little more open to the possibility that anytime you take a step, whatever it is, it can go essentially anywhere, and you modify from there. Working in a small space is an excellent, excellent, excellent way to start that. And since we all pretty much have access to at least that, like, I can't think of a single bedroom I've been in, of my own anyways, that has been so small that I was not able to do something like this. Right? That takes up basically no space. If I can stand in my room, I can do that. If I can't stand on the floor in my room, I could stand on my bed and do that. Also, excellent training, unstable surfaces. That'll make you work on your balance. And once you can kind of get that in your mind that I can step anywhere, right? I don't need to worry about it. Start problem solving in your environment. Anytime I'm teaching my students, how to do a walking thing or a footwork pattern, anything like that, so, or a new stance, I'm like, try this all around your house. Like, get around your coffee table, step over the dog, get to the kitchen, make soup, and come back to the dining room table if you still got a dining room table, anything like that. Like, move around your house, try out this different stuff, make yourself problem solve in real time. Oh, how do I get around this? Oh, maybe I have to cross step, and then that allows me to get here so that I can take another bow and arrow stance to get there. and maybe for some reason I've got a low crawl space or something I can get into with a nice drop stance or something like that. Just have fun with it, play with it. I always liken these things to kids' games. Kids play these things and play pretend out on the playground and in the woods and stuff like that to build skills, to build neural plasticity, to learn what their bodies can do and how they function in lots of different environments. And you can do exactly the same thing, just going around your house in a familiar environment. If you think it's pretty weird, do it late at night with the curtains down. Make sure the neighbors don't see or anything like that. But once you're comfortable doing that, get out into nature. Tai Chi was invented by Taoists, after all. Very big on nature. I like to call them original hippies. Start taking this outdoors. Go to a park. Try it on some grass. Feel how different it is trying to relax your foot and sink your weight down into something that isn't nice and level and flat, right? It's going to really make you focus on how your weight is actually being transmitted into the ground and how to stabilize yourself. Especially like if you're starting to move around and take steps, you've got to be really rooted and sunk down on that standing leg to be able to put your leg anywhere else. And then start problem solving it. Like, just go out and try and anywhere you go to step, oh, that's a little bit weird. Maybe I got to shorten up my step. Maybe I got to make it longer. Maybe I got to step in a different place. Maybe I have to sink a little bit differently. Maybe I have to readjust my back foot, right? In a nice natural environment with some undulations, grass. Then start putting it in different environments. Try doing it on a slope. Try doing it up a slope, down a slope, sideways on the slope. Every single move in every direction you can possibly think of. Try them out and have fun with it. Play with it. Challenge yourself like kids do. If you've heard that Tai Chi is supposed to give you a nice youthful energy back, well, what's more youthful energy than playing pretend and challenging yourself with little games, getting out of your comfort zone and doing things a little differently. Free up your Tai Chi. Tai Chi is supposed to be spontaneous and not we do this because it isn't a rigid thing, right? We want to be loose and fluid and relaxed, and by breaking ourselves out of that, especially up here, is going to have tremendous benefits to your Tai Chi long term. So this is a bit of a short one today. I usually ramble on for about an hour, but anyways, this is, it's a short one. It's some stuff I really kind of want to get across to you. Don't worry about learning this stuff or think that you have to, be in a particular environment, or you can't practice in your own little space, or that you can't modify things or change things or do things a little differently. First and foremost, have fun with this stuff. Do it because you enjoy it, and do things with it that you enjoy doing. So that's all I got for you tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. Be here next week at 6:30 as well. We will see you then. Take care. Let's see, did I get any commentary or anything like that? I don't see anything there. And live chat, nope, don't see anything there. All right, thank you for joining me. Have a great night.